Time for us to get underway. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Speechcraft session 5 of Forex Toastmasters Club Speechcraft 2022. My name is Graham Cairns, and I am, as always, your Sergeant at Arms. For those of us who are in the room, if there is a fire, please use the fire exit over to my right, not behind us, because behind us are books burn, so do you, yada, yada, yada. If you need to go to the little girls and or boys room, please wait, because by the time you get up 2 flights of stairs and then get back down here, the meeting will be over. Those of you at home, these rules don't apply. If you've got a fire, you deal with it however you wish to deal with it. And if you need to go visit the facilities, well, I don't want to know. But please turn your camera and microphone off, particularly your microphone off if you have a wireless microphone. We've heard legendary stories when we first went to... Don't take your device with you. No, probably a good idea. All right. So on that note, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we physically meet today, the Turrbal people from the north side of the river and the Yagara people from the south side of the river, and also the traditional owners of the land wherever you are. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Today's session of Speechcraft focuses on body language presentations being given by 3 of our Speechcrafters, and then we will have an educational on the next phase, that is how to use our voice as an instrument, vocal variety. We will have table topics. We were going to have a table topics session from Charmaine, but I note that Charmaine isn't here, and I do know that she has had some difficulties in the last few days. So I've asked Helen to step in to do that role. Tom, you're not down to do anything. Do you have anything that could indicate lights there? A yellow, anything yellow, green, and red? Sue's volunteering to do so.
Yep.
Have I got you down to do an evaluation, Sue?
Yep.
Do you have anything, Tom? Or if not, I shall get Sue to do it as well. She can do both.
Okay, yeah, I can try. Yes, and I have light things.
If you're ready to go, Sue, we'll use you. And Tom, you will get a table topic. Don't let that worry you. You're not going to escape. All right. So,
can I ask a question, Graham?
You certainly can.
Is there a gesture evaluation sheet or not really?
There should be, not a gesture one. We're just using the effective body language evaluation, which is, I believe. I
tried to go online today and I couldn't grab it offline. It wasn't available.
Well, the observations are. The member will present a well-organised speech on any topic. Watch for the member's awareness of his or her unintentional and intentional movement and body language, noting distracting movements as well as movements that enhance the speech. So, yeah, basically body language. Yep.
Thank you.
And the only one that's not in the usual form is we ask you to comment on unintentional movement and purposeful movement. So yeah, basically standard evaluation with unintentional and intentional movement. Was there a question from you, Sue?
The speakers are 4 minutes. What are the evaluators?
About a minute.
1 minute.
Yep. We're making them short, but we could probably, because we only have the 3 speakers, we can probably allow the speakers to go a little over. Please don't go to 7. And we could probably allow the evaluators to go up to 2. But if we can have the timing as 3, 3.5, and 4 minutes for the speakers, and 30 seconds, 45, and 1 minute for the evaluations, that would be really good. Thank you for that. I've done the acknowledgement. I've done the welcome to Speechcraft session 5. It is time for us to get underway. And as I say, we have today 3 Speechcrafters who will be speaking. 2 of them here in the room. Actually, I should do the introductions just so everybody knows who's here. On the screen, we have Dominic. Say hello, Dominic. Yep. Hello, Dominic. We see you. We have Sue. We have Ellen. Yay. We have Steve.
Good morning.
Here for the first time in Speechcraft, we have Jenny. Hello, Jenny. Welcome and good to see you along. Jenny's a member of this club, and we have Tom, who is this year's president. So welcome everybody online. Now here in the room, and I know that the camera which we have showing the room is not as effective as it might be, but we have, and they will wave so that you know who I'm talking about. We have Mark. Yeah, there's Mark. We have Helen. There's Helen. We have Adie. Yeah, Adie's there somewhere. We have Rob. And we have Sandra. Yay, so that's everybody who's in the room. So now you know if you're doing evaluations or whatever. All right, so now time to move to our presentations. And as I say, we have speeches today from 3 of our speech crafters. The first of them is going to be from the room. And so will you please make most welcome with her speech on body language called Just Like Riding a Bike. Will you please make welcome Sandra Valenzuela. Sandra.
Yeah, just in case. I just click.
Yep.
That's it.
That'll work
That's
fine.
how. Yeah. Was
Sandra.
good. Hey. Hi. Yeah. Well, I remember the very first time I got on a bike. I was probably 7 years old. Yes. We live in a neighborhood where all the kids come out in the afternoon and play together. I remember my first bike. It was a beautiful purple, white, and red bike with 2 colorful handles, pom-poms around. My dad taught me how to ride on it. One of my sweetest memories belonged to my dad running after me meanwhile I was trying to master the bike. Those first rides were horrible. I fell over many times and come back again and try again. But the following days, I definitely come back, try to keep my balance and do it again. After one day, I was able to cycling with my friends around the neighborhood, feeling happiness and freedom, which maybe brings to these days now. During the last few weeks or month, maybe, I was applying for jobs. I had 6 or 7 interviews, all of them unsuccessful, a disaster, for different reasons. Remember me those first days when I was trying to learn how to ride a bike and fell over and tried again. So now, after each of these unsuccessful interviews, I say to myself, Sandra, be resilient. You made a mistake, now you just adjust your performance and ride your bike again. Moreover, I am here in front of you to try to improve my communications skills, to reach my goals. Because at the end of the day, life is like riding a bike. We keep pedaling to keep it going. We also have some times where we have a scary experience, but most of them turn out in a beautiful and refreshing experience like riding a bike. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. When I first rejoined Toastmasters, used that same analogy, that it was a bit like riding a bike, that you never quite forget what you're doing, but you can get really wobbly for a while until you get used to it. Well, I'm glad to see that you are on the bike and treating job interviews as a learning experience. Now, our second speak, can I get the timing on that first speech, by the way, please, Sue?
(2 minutes 52).
2:52, thank you. Our second speaker today is Steve, and Steve, once again, with an effective body language presentation, is presenting survival. Survival, here's Steve.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yep, thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, good morning. Nature is an amazing thing, but sometimes we take its awesomeness for granted. For example, we assume that a tiny seed will just grow by itself into a towering tree. But in fact, it requires water, oxygen, and the right temperature. And even so, there's one more thing that it requires. Seeds have a characteristic called dormancy, and they require one other aspect, one more condition to germinate. This requirement of another condition, environmental conditions, has evolved as a mechanism for survival. Seeds can remain dormant for a number of years, up to a number of years. And throughout this time, they look dead. But even so, there are tissues within the seed that remain active, preparing the seed for germination. There are two main mechanisms by which seeds can become dormant or remain dormant. Firstly, if that is a seed embryo, there can be a coating around the seed, on the seed, or there can be a protective layer further removed from the seed. The second mechanism for dormancy is that there can be chemicals within the embryo that, once activated by an environmental stimuli, i.e. the right conditions, will start a chemical process that will lead to respiration and germination. Now, some examples of environmental conditions that are required to germinate specific plants. I don't know if some of you might know Banksias, and they're Banksia cones. Now, if you shake a Banksia cone, you can hear the seeds rattling inside. And there are two dormancy mechanisms in play there. There is an outer protective coat or pod within which the seed sits to protect it. And to open that requires heat. And in a natural situation, that's brought about by fire. Okay, so fire will cause the pod to open and the seed to be free. But it still requires one more activation stimuli, and that is smoke. And there is much research has gone into smoke, what aspect of smoke is required to stimulate embryos to germinate. Other examples of environmental stimuli include cold, passage through animals eating seeds passing through their guts and being exposed to acids and breaking down that outer seed coat. Other stimuli are light periods, like periods of darkness, periods of light. And last one I'm going to mention is abrasion. Now, so in conclusion, seed dormancy is an important mechanism for the survival of plants that requires seeds to be subjected to some other some other condition other than water, light, and temperature. There can be this dormancy can be through a coating on the seed, something further removed from the seed, or some chemical process within the seed. There are a fascinating range of different environmental stimuli required for the germination of seeds to optimize their chances of survival to grow into a towering tree. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Steve, for that survival. You're talking about how seeds require.
Sorry,
Yep.
well done.
Hello, somebody's going bark bark. That'll be Suze. Can I get the timing for that one, please, Sue?
So my dog's trying to tell you that it was 4 minutes 38.
4:38. Thank you very much. I love the fact, Steve, you talk about how seeds sometimes have to, for example, go through a gut and be the acid helps them to germinate. That, of course, is the process behind a type of coffee which sells for enormous amounts of money, which is passed through the intestinal tract of a civet cat. What I want to know is who was the first person that decided it was a really good idea to roast weasel poop and use it for coffee? They did, but when you think about it, it's a bizarre concept. Our third speaker today, our third speech crafter, is Rob Strickland, once again doing effective body language, and Rob's presentation is the mother of all birthdays.
I hope you can hear me with that. Do I need to put it on back? I've got a big voice. It was a wild and windy morning. So windy, in fact, that the pilot of the Cessna light aircraft that I was sitting in was having grave doubts about taking off. But take off he did. And I'm here to tell you the results of all that, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It was 35 years ago, actually. And I was given a birthday present. And it was a parachute jump. And all free and untangled. So you see, in those days, there was no such thing as a tandem jump where you had a person with you to sort of look after you and make sure that you didn't pull the wrong cord. And nor were there parachutes that were nice and long and elongated so that you could steer them. Oh no, the parachute I jumped out of was a very round and circular parachute. And the direction that this parachute went down was one way only. And that was whatever way the wind took you. So there I was, after about 2 hours, very minimal training, sitting cooped up in this tiny little Cessna, scared out of my brains, crammed up with 5 other thrill seekers, and we were getting buffeted around and wishing that the whole thing was over. Well, needless to say, the thrill did eventually come to an end. And this is after a night long lying, rigid, thinking about this moment, what would happen when I fell out of the plane. But I did fall out of the plane. And fortunately, there was a ripcord which was automatically attached to the plane, so I didn't have to unfreeze because, believe me, I was frozen. The ripcord pulled, the parachute opened, I came down on the whim of the wind, and I landed more or less safely. It only took about 3 minutes, and it felt like 3 hours. So it was an exciting experience. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I was elated, I was excited, and I was terrified. But I was thrilled to have my 40th birthday remembered in such an exciting way. And it was, after all said and done, mother of all birthdays.
Thank you, Robbie. Oh, I've never understood throwing myself out of a perfectly serviceable aircraft. But then again, I've never understood going paragliding either, and I did that not all that long ago. I'm terrified by heights, but I did it nevertheless. There is a form coming around to be signing in. We'll get to that in a sec. Yeah, if you can just pass it around. Okay, time now for the evaluations. And for the first time, we're going to be calling upon speech. Oh, we need a time. Sorry. Yes, we do.
That time was 3 minutes 24.
3:24. Excellent. Thank you very much. Given that I think that Robbie was sort of thinking it might be a bit short, 3:24 is a perfect length. So well done. Time now for our evaluations. And to evaluate our speech crafters, this time we're actually calling upon speech crafters to do the evaluation, although that's a little unfair because 2 of the 3 evaluators are longer term members and 1 is already a member of Toastmasters. Is that all right? We can do this anyway. To evaluate Sandra's presentation, I believe I asked Sue to do this. Yes, so Sue, so again, for a period of say 1 to 1.5 minutes, can you please provide Sandra with an evaluation of Just Like Riding a Bike?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Well, congratulations, Sandra, on choosing a topic that very effectively demonstrated body language. Riding a bike was the perfect way to use lots of body language and entertain us. I like the way you started your speech. I remember when. Took us on a... I could see you on the screen. A couple of times you did move out of screen for me, being an online observer, but I'm sure everyone in the room saw you well. Your hands moved very naturally when you were talking, just about most things. The only recommendation I have, when you are pausing, you'd clasp your hands in at your waist. So try to remember just to let your hands fall down by your side when you're not using them as effectively as you were in between. You demonstrated effective body language very well by talking about running after me and when you came back up again and the balance on the bike. Well done. And I love the way you tied it all up with a message at the end. That an analogy that falling off a bike and getting back up is about how we should treat everything in life and just keep trying. Congratulations, Sandra. I really enjoyed that speech.
Thank you, Sue. Now, to evaluate Steve, I believe I asked, now was that Dominic? Or was that was good. So, Ellen, can you please provide Steve with an evaluation of his presentation?
Steve, thank you for your speech today on
Survival.
Survival. I'm a budding gardener and I was hanging on to your every word because I too have trouble with my seeds. And I thought, wow, I'm going to learn something here from this speech. It was such an interesting topic. You had me hanging on though till the end, till you gave me the bit of information that I was waiting for. So that was a way of getting me to keep listening. Initially, I thought your hand gestures were repeated. The same gesture was repeated quite a bit, but you were talking about small things and bigger things and small, and that was repeated. But as you got into the speech, I found that your gestures were excellent. When you were talking about the Banksia, and the other things you said were the rattle gestures, you had the cones, and good hand, very good as you got into the middle. I found that I feel you were a little bit close to your screen. I'd like to see if you could get back a bit. I suppose I can't say this, I'm the same as you. We only really see our chest up. And sometimes I feel your lighting is a little bit dull. I don't know how you could improve on your lighting. I have a little round light from Kmart, and that's really brightens my screen a lot. Very good speech, excellent contact. I love your speeches about all these interesting topics, and I look forward to your next one. It was really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. A budding gardener, was that meant to be a pun? I'm sorry. Our third speech tonight was given by Rob, and Dominic, you were to be the evaluator of Rob's presentation, so all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Rob, I was delighted when you moved the lectern out of the way, because I've seen you speak before and you've always sort of stood behind the lectern. So it was great that you moved that out of the way. And I mean, what a great topic for gestures and movements, jumping out of a plane. I wish I'd saved my speech on parachuting for this particular day. And you had a great range of movement there. Really well done. I thought you had great pace, you were very clear, and you sort of looked around the room, really good delivery. You got a big beaming smile and a laugh, and it was fun and well delivered speech. I think the only thing area of improvement is practice a bit more so that you don't need to look at your notes. You have to look at your notes a little bit, and you really just give it that extra dimension. But that was a lot of fun. Really appreciated that. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Dominic. Now, Sue, can I get an indication of the times for those evaluations? You're muted somehow.
Okay, Sue was 1 minute 36. Alan was 1 minute 55. Dominic was 1 minute 5. I must say it's very hard to do an evaluation in 1 minute.
It is. It's a challenging role, isn't it? But it's one of the things that we do with Speechcraft. But thank you, everybody. Yeah, for Speechcrafters who may not be aware, normally our evaluations run between 2 and 3 minutes. But given that your speeches are only between 3 and 4 minutes, it sort of seems a bit of overkill to do that. But normally when Toastmaster gives a 5 to 7 minute presentation, the evaluation is normally 2 to 3 minutes. So you'll get more detail than we're getting here today. Time now to move on to our educational presentation, or table topics comes up after. I know you're eager to get started, but that's all right. First, we have an educational presentation on the use of vocal variety. And so for a period of 3 to 4 minutes, so can I get lights at 3, 3.5 and 4 would be good. Will you please welcome Forex Toastmaster, Mark Conti.
The trick is to try to get this on. Yeah, I can't even put that on. I've got it now. Can you hear me okay in online world?
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests and visitors. Your greatest tool as a speaker is your voice. The best public speakers recognise when to raise or lower your voice, how to use silence to add impact, and the value of varying their pace when delivering a speech. Your greatest tool as a speaker is your voice. The best public speakers know how to recognize how to raise or lower their voice, how to use pause or silence to add impact, and the value of varying the pace of your speech when delivering your speech. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of the 4 components of vocal variety that help you hopefully deliver a more effective speech. And I hope I gave you a bit of an example one there, but I must admit our speech crafters gave wonderful examples earlier, but I wasn't evaluating them, so I won't harp on that. So I'll be talking about volume, pitch, pace, and tone. And if we have a little bit of time later, I wanted to give particularly our speech crafters a bit of a breathing exercise to help them feel at ease before they present their speech. That's if I have time. Anyway, Don and Sandra, for example, gave a great example of volume. I mean, volume is self-explanatory. It's basically where you want to emphasize a point or a section of your speech. And I like the exercise that they did where, and same as self, I did the same thing when before you present, particularly online or in the room, you basically just check your volume. Can you hear me okay? Great. So you sort of know whether you're sort of too low or too high. I mean, volume is important. I think the other 3 areas that I like to speak about will really enhance your effective way of communicating. So pitch of your voice is how high and low your voice sounds. That wasn't really low, that was high. Show passion and enthusiasm. I'm super excited to be here today to talk about vocal variety. Or lower your pitch when you want to convey a much more authoritative or sort of serious tone. For example, during the next few minutes, I really want you to listen to me because what I'm going to say to you is very important. Pace is the speed at which you speak. Choose certain sentences that your speech could be ramped up to show enthusiasm and excitement. Speed up the sentence only, and then pause when communicating an important message. Then the audience will have time to assimilate the information that you just distilled. The use of slower pace is more used when you want to talk about complicated material. For example, what Steve was talking about. I'll give you another example. A target, for example, a target says you should wait at least 3 months before you, you should wait 3 months after your last COVID vaccination, or if you've had COVID, before choosing to go for another booster shot. So that's where I'm trying to make sure you can digest that information. Tone is the emotion behind the sound of your voice. So when you're conveying a serious message or you want to use a more warm, authoritative tone, for example, when you're speaking to someone in the household, for example, my kids, I would say, Carissa, please go to your room now. Or in a lighter, warmer tone where I want to ask Carissa about her well-being, I may ask her like, how are you today, Carissa? How are you feeling? So remember, when you want to present an effective speech, you can use 4 or 2 or 3 of those components, which is volume, obviously, pitch, pace, and tone. So do I have time? No, the red light's come up. So I hope you can use that to deliver an effective speech. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. I'll steal the microphone back. Thank you for that. We've run out of time for that, but if you've got those exercises, I will make sure that they are emailed to all of our participants, including those who aren't here today, which would be good. We've had prepared speeches, some more prepared than others, obviously. We've had a prepared presentation, an educational session. Now comes the bit that I love most in a Toastmasters meeting, and that's the chance to speak extemporaneously, without notice, with table topics. And to present our table topic session, please welcome Helen Latta.
Is there anyone evaluating this? Just so I
Yes,
don't.
that's Jenny.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have 6 topics. The first topic's going to be
Oh, I forgot to mention Mark's time was 4:39. Can you announce that?
what's in a handshake? Hang on. Cannot hear me? No?
What's the times, please, Helen?
Oh, sorry. 1 to 2?
If we now the Speechcraft in 1 minute.
1 minute? Sorry, 1 minute. The first topic is what's in a handshake? And I'm going to choose, all these people have just suddenly dropped off my list. I'm going to start asking some of the speech crafters. And Steve, what's in a handshake?
Thank you for that interesting topic, Helen. You know what? That actually reminds me of so many different handshakes over the years. So much can be communicated through a handshake. There's one handshake in particular that I remember. We had some tradesmen here, and one of these guys was an enormous German. He'd been a tiler and stonemason. He'd built all sorts of anything from tombstones to cathedrals to tiling enormous areas. I think he did Post Office Square in town, and this guy was huge. And I remember this handshake, he just totally enveloped my hand with his hand, and I was quite concerned about the possibility of damage to my hand. And the fact that I got it back intact, nothing broken, I was so pleased. Anyway, that was a handshake to remember. Back to you, Table Topics, Madam Table Topics Master.
Okay. The next topic is, how do you use your smile to your advantage? And Sandra.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Yes, how to use my smile in my advantage. Well, definitely when I was a child and I did many tricky stuff to my mom, yes, so, or when I just try to avoid clean the house, or I don't know, go to the shops, I just present to my mom with a big smile and say, Mom, should I need to do it today? And a big smile coming to my face, and my mom just hugged me and kissed me because I just was a sweet girl at that time. Thank you.
I must add, all these topics have a body language theme to them. And my next topic is, how do you describe yourself using body and thinking about body language within that topic? Tom.
Apologies, can I have the topic read? I just had another buzz come in at the moment.
Oh, how do you describe yourself using body language?
I think we all describe ourselves using body language more than we are aware of, whether intentionally or not. And I think it's something that we should all be aware of, or increase our self-awareness of, so that we convey ourselves in the manner we would like. Certainly, if we want to convey confidence as much as possible, particularly in a workplace scenario or in any other dealings where you're meeting someone for the first time, using your body and conveying like you know what you're talking about, even if you might have some doubts in your own mind, conveying those to the rest of the world with your shoulders back and chest out and a nice loud voice while considering what you're saying can increase the effectiveness of what you're saying to your audience manyfold. Top cluster.
My next topic is, what is your most favorite way to express yourself when using your arms? Ellen.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. My most favourite way would be to go big or, oh my God, what happened, you know? I often see people and I have to connect with them quickly. I haven't met them. I don't always have a lot of time with them. And so expressing empathy and leaning forward when they're listening, mirroring their body language are some of the things I do when I meet someone. And I'm sorry, I've totally got off the question because I've forgotten what it was. Anyway, yeah. Being friendly, showing a happy face, and or if that's not appropriate, mirroring the situation that we're in. Thank you, Madam Topics Master.
And I'll do one more because I think we're nearly out of time. If you, okay, is there a time and a place for body language? Robbie. Oh. 80.
Time and place for body language. Oh. There I am. So that's one place for it. We always use body language, don't we? I mean, it's so normal to use body language. In fact, even with standing still, as as Tom mentioned, we can display all sorts of meaning in what we're thinking by our body language of standing still, chest out, shoulders back, or maybe just hunched forward because I don't know what's happening and I'm nervous about place, whatever. I don't know. Ask my husband. He goes, yes. So yes, we use body language all the time, and I don't know what the question was now.
Is there a time and a place?
A time and a place. I guess there's always a place to use body language because wherever we are, we're there. So yes, there's always a place to use body language, and it's always the right time to use it as well. And
my apologies for some challenging questions.
Never apologise for challenging questions with table topics. That's half the joy of table topics. To provide can I get some timings for those topics, please, Sue?
Yes. Steve was 1:22, Sandra 39 seconds, Tom 1 minute 5, Alan 48 seconds, 80 50 seconds.
Fabulous. Well done, all of you. And I forgot to mention that Tom's workshop presentation was 4 minutes and 29 seconds. Mark, sorry. No, yeah, not Tom, Mark. Mark's time was that 4:29 or 4:39? Either way, it was pretty good. Terrific. Thank you for that. Now, for table topics evaluation, and Jenny, you've got, I don't know, about 3 minutes for this, so 2, 2.5 and 3 if we can, please. Jenny Zhang with an evaluation of the table topics.
Thank you, Toastmaster. So we had 5 speakers today. First one, Steve. The question was, what's in a handshake? It took Steve a few seconds to come up with the content, but he came up with great content in a very natural way. He used a few repetitions at the beginning of his speech to engage the audience, which was fantastic. And he used body language effectively, large German build-up. He also used the word enveloped. So we all got the image on how hard and firm the handshake could have been. Well done, Steve. I enjoyed your speech. Next, Sandra, how do you use your smile to your advantage? So Sandra described a little scenario when she was a little girl. It was very cute. Sandra, you have this very natural way of engaging the audience and using your body language. The only suggestion is you probably want to give you another example about how you use your beautiful smile to add a little bit more content to your speech. But well done, Sandra. And the third speaker, Tom, how do you describe yourself with your body language? So Tom almost gave us a little mini speech there and gave us some really useful suggestion on how to portray confidence with detailed suggestions and tips. That was very useful, Tom, and it was you spoke eloquently, and I really liked the content. Next one, Ellen. What's your most favorite hand gestures or arm languages? And funny enough, Ellen, even though you forgot what the question was, but you kind of answered the question. In your speech, you started with your open arms, and you started with this, and that was very, very interesting. And you also gave us some useful and practical tips about how to engage with people when you speak to them. Last speaker, AD, time and place for body language. One thing that AD did really well was she slowly moved herself to the front of the room until she made sure that everyone online could see her full body. Well done, AD. I think that's a very, very smart tactic when you have hybrid meetings. And AD also forgot the question halfway through, but then she answered the question in somehow, and there's always a way to use body language. And she basically iterated and strengthened that message at the end. So well done, everybody, and we all enjoyed your speech. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jenny, for that. And it's good to see you back. Well, we haven't seen Jenny in our club for a while, and it's really good to see you. It was, and always good to hear a great evaluation like that one. Time now to start looking at our next week. We are getting to the pointy end. I sent you all again last night a copy of the self-evaluation. Now, that's purely for your benefit. So can you please assess how you're feeling at the halfway point through this Speechcraft course? If you think that there's an area that you have improved on, that's great. Keep working on that. If you think there's an area you would like extra help with, then please see any of the coordinators, or in fact, any of the members of this club. We'd love to be able to help. Next week's presentations are using vocal variety based on what you heard today from Mark. Now, we will be sending you out some more notes. We've already sent you some, but we'll send you out, for example, the breathing exercises that Mark was talking about, a way to get yourself settled, to get yourself comfortable. There are 3 sessions of Speechcraft left, 6, 7, and 8. I would like every Speechcrafter to deliver a speech at 2 of those 3 sessions. So if you gave a speech today and you don't feel you need to do one next week, you don't have to. But if you didn't give a speech today, I'd really like to hear from you next week. If you did give a speech and you want to speak again next week because you want to get the best value you can out of this Speechcraft course, then again, I'm happy for that to happen. Well, at least Adi will be happy for that to happen because she will be coordinating next week. I'm coordinating the week after, and then she gets to do the final one. But just bear in mind that I will be asking 4 or 5 Speechcrafters to talk about what they have learned in the Speechcraft course on our final session, which is week 8. So not next week, not the week after, but the week after that. So if you really want to be one of those valedictorian speakers, then decide which of the next 2 you would like to speak at, and then start preparing that valedictory speech, as it were. But if you want to speak next week, I'd love to give you the opportunity. The theme or the purpose of the speech next week is to develop vocal variety skills. It doesn't have to be a speech which is about vocal variety, but which uses your vocal variety skills. And I've got to say, I think all of the Speechcrafters have done an amazingly successful job so far. So that's what we're doing next week. I will be sending out those notes from Mark. I'll be sending out a reminder of what you're asked to do in the vocal variety presentation. That'll be coming. Please let me know and let Adi know as soon as possible if you wish to be a speaker at next week's meeting, and preferably the title of your presentation as well. The earlier, the easier it is for Adi. So that's what we're doing for session 6. In a moment or two, we're going to do the same as we have done in previous weeks, and we will break apart into online and those of us in the room to discuss what's coming up in next week and what you want to do. But before we do, we have something that isn't actually on the agenda, but I'm going to ask for it anyway. Mark's presentation today, his educational, he's actually using to fit a level 3 elective, which is use of vocal variety, I understand. And so Adi has been preparing an evaluation. Are you in a position to give that evaluation now, Adi? If we can do it in sort of 2 to 3 minutes, or would you prefer to do it? Yep. Here's Adi.
This evaluation, the speech profile gives us a standard form to fill. We ask for the purpose of this statement, purpose of the speech, which you've heard, and notes for the evaluator, what sort of speech it is, and there are general comments, which unfortunately don't print out very well on my computer. Not to worry. I felt that as far as a speech looking for vocal variety to enhance what you do, Tom really met the objectives. Mark really met the objectives. Reset that was. I just read Tom on the screen. So he excelled in his delivery of this advice. We heard everything he said. He was clear. He didn't mumble. He didn't mutter. He didn't say things too fast that you couldn't understand what he was saying. And I thought that this was a really well delivered speech, and he put it together quite clearly. What I'd have liked to have heard during that speech was some of the examples that he said he might use later, but we don't have the time for. We could have got him up here now and had those anyway. I thought if he'd put a few of those exercises within the body of a speech, he could have used them as he went along. However, it was a good speech as it was. And it's only that we had a very short time frame for these speeches that we couldn't fit that in, Mark. To challenge yourself, you might like to do that speech again, maybe for this club or another club, and include those examples as you go. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would have to concur with everything that Adi has just said. I thought that was an excellent presentation, Mark. And I thought that we all learned something, which is the purpose of these. If you get a chance to deliver that again at some later stage, that would be really good. Or perhaps to another club. There's an opportunity. I was going to break us out into the two groups, the online groups and the home group, or those here and those online. But quite frankly, given that we've only got 4 minutes left, I don't think there's much point in doing that. What I do have to do is to ask, how did you feel about your evaluations? Those of you who gave the evaluations and those of you who received them, how did you feel about the evaluations today? I'll start with Robbie. How did you feel about the evaluation that you were given today?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you probably will need the mic here.
Right. I did enjoy that evaluation because it really gave me a big boost up. Thank you. Also the part that I most enjoyed, of course, was the suggestion of looking less at my notes, because that's something I really struggle with, and to have someone else tell me what I already knew, but which I kind of let myself off with, it's something I certainly have to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, we'll talk to you as well. Any observations you wanted to make from the evaluation that you received?
None other than the fact that I appreciated the observation of the sequence of my the pattern of my body movements. The fact that initially they were a little repetitious, but I think as I got into it, I was a bit more relaxed. They became a bit more natural. So that was very, I appreciated that observation. Thank you, Ella. And of course, I warmed to the concept, I warmed to the idea that Ellen was a budding gardener. So created a connection.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Now, Dominic, while we're staying online, how did you feel about giving that evaluation? You haven't had a chance to give all that many in the club, and certainly not squeezed into the time frame that you were given today.
Well, I kind of, after I'd done it, I thought, oh, I didn't quite do the speech justice, in the sense that I think I missed out that there was great pace and some of the things that Rob displayed. I'm not sure I mentioned that. And also, and I was just looking at somebody else's evaluation just then, I could have given an example of where Rob had used a gesture effectively. I just said there was a good variety of gestures. I could have maybe given an example of where I thought, you know, a good example of one of those gestures. For example, when he was buffeted around, and I liked when he did this just like this, like when he was coming down in the parachute. As I could have given an example.
Well, that's the thing that we learn in Toastmasters, in Speechcraft and in Toastmasters. We learn to fall and fail forward. That even if we don't do quite what we wanted, we learn in the process, and that's what it's about. We're just about out of time. I'm not going to ask for comments from Sandra, but I will talk to her in a moment. But what I would like to do is remind you, if you're going to speak next week, I would really like you to take the opportunity to do so. Please bear in mind the purpose of the speech is to display vocal variety, but it doesn't have to be about vocal variety. And can you please let AD know as soon as you can that you are going to be presenting and the title of your presentation. That's a hand going up there from Dominic. Yay!
How long does it have to be? What's the time?
Again, I think we're at this stage, we're still looking 4 minutes. We will go to 5 minutes for the last 2 weeks. But for next week, we're still looking 4 minutes. So, yep. Four-ish. Yep. So 3 to 4 minutes would be really good. And let AD know.
And I think you all have my emails, or if not, my text messages. Yeah, I will accept either.